Welcome to another special edition of TeeVo and the Beard.
I know you can't see it, but I'm TeeVo, and that's the beard.
This time we're beaming in to talk to you about Star Trek, and in particular Star Trek Beyond. We have not seen the movie yet. This isn't the review episode. This is kind of the...
But as we are recording right now, is released. So
It is, yes. So I wish I was seeing it right now.
Not that we don't want to talk to you, but...
Yes, yeah, but we think you guys are important, so we'll wait to see it. We're going to put your needs ahead of our own, and if you believe that, then great, keep listening. First, we're going to break the ice, as we always do, by talking about the elephant in the room, and that's the change of a certain character in Star Trek. And that's also implying that only one character has been changed since the reboot of Star Trek.
Good point.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. And that, of course, is, spoiler warning, if you've been living under a rock and don't know a single thing about the new Star Trek movie.
Which, at this point, why are you listening?
Yeah, so just stop listening now. Come back after you've seen the movie. So, and that is, in this movie, we find out that Sulu is gay, has a husband, has a daughter. I'm waiting for everybody to calm down before we go on with that.
So, as a non-Trekkie, I thought that was cool when I first heard about it because, we all know that, the original Sulu played in the series by George Takei, is a famously gay man.
Right.
I thought making the reboot character reflect that. I thought it was cool. It's like, hey, nice homage. Whatever. Right.
And of course, if you've been reading the news, you know that George is one of the main people against the changing of Sulu. And I use change in quotation marks there, which we'll get into a little bit later. He doesn't think that the character needed to be changed at all, and especially not in such a... I hate to use this word because I don't see it as being changed in a dramatic way, but that is how it's viewed. Is when you appear to change somebody's sexuality, it is a drastic jump.
So let me ask you this. So, I just pretty much said my thoughts on it, but like I repeated before, I'm not a big Trekkie person.
Right.
So let me ask you, the person who's followed Star Trek their whole lives, what do you make of this situation? Good, bad? Should it even be an issue?
I don't think it should be an issue. But I don't think anybody's sexuality should be an issue. Not to get political in our podcast here, but I do long for the day when somebody being gay, straight, bi, whatever, doesn't have to be announced, doesn't have to be thought of. Because nobody ever says, hey, I'm straight, I married a woman. Nobody announces that unless they're being to keep the... Is asshat a PG-13?
I think so.
Okay, so unless you're an asshat, you don't go around announcing stuff like that because being straight is just a common thing. I think it should be seen, whether you're gay, bi, transgender, whatever, should be seen as a common thing. And if you're a woman who is married to another woman, fine. If you're a guy who's married to another guy, fine. It should just be seen as a married couple, not a gay couple, not a lesbian couple. And that's as political as I'm going to get right there. But that's also why my brain is divided into two with this reveal, because the side of me that lives in the real world, says everything that I just said, and believes that Star Trek is a show and franchise where, as a geek, a nerd, or whatever, you get to see yourself represented on screen.
Right.
So Sulu was really big because before that, if you were an Asian in film or in TV, if you were in TV, actually you weren't. But if you were in film, you either were a martial artist or a chef, the person that drives the limo. Chauffeur. Which ironically is kind of what Sulu was.
Yeah.
But higher up,
yeah.
Chauffeur. So...
Sci-fi makes things look a little different.
Right, yeah. You were a chauffeur that had powers,
yes.
that could do things. You didn't just drive the ship. So, the fact that a character like Sulu existed, the fact that Uhura existed as a African-American female character, these are big deals. And with each series, you see more and more characters represented. When Janeway comes, you have a female captain. When Deep Space Nine comes, you have an African-American commander, often called captain, but I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of that. So the great thing about Star Trek is everybody has someone they can look up to. As we've mentioned before, TeeVo is of Asian descent, so if he was a Star Trek fan, he could look at Sulu and say, I see myself in that.
I don't see myself in Takai's because it's just, I didn't grow up. But, I'm not going to lie, I do very much enjoy John Cho's Sulu.
Because he fits both... he fits both in the category of ethnicity and in the age group that's closer to you. I'm in the middle of everybody. I don't know what this says, though, about me, but I see myself in Q more than any other character. And for other Trekkies out there, you'll definitely understand the John Delancey character. And I don't know.
But see, the thing was, that confused me with, this whole thing wasn't like Star Trek built on kind of introducing that sort of diversity.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, the first interracial kiss on
which was
screen,
not shown in like half of America.
Really?
Yeah,
but it was on Star Trek.
But it was on Star Trek, and you
like
can
you
go
said,
back on Netflix and whatever and definitely see it.
Right, but like you said, you had an Asian character and a Russian character, and a black woman, and at the time was like, whoa. So.
Yeah. But even sadly, by the time you get into the Voyager, where Janeway's captain, having a female captain was them going above and beyond what other shows were doing. And yes, I know there's a lot of people who have done their research and they know that Gene Roddenberry started out as a very homophobic individual. It was sadly because of the way he was raised, it was the environment he grew up in. But if you read later interviews, that does change, and he comes out and says and apologizes to the LBGT plus community about his thoughts and his actions before, and he would gladly have had a homosexual character on there. His fear was that it would have the same backlash that the interracial kiss had, because that kiss had the lowest ratings of any episode of Star Trek because it was literally blacked out. Like if you turned on your TV at that time, they weren't showing a rerun, they weren't showing the news, it was a black screen. There was nothing playing at all. And that was his fear back then. If he were still alive, would there have been one in Voyager or, in Enterprise or something like that? Very possibly. So that's where half my brain lies right there.
I think the other, without being political at all, but what do you think about just changing an iconic character?
That's where the other half of my brain lies.
As opposed to are you on the fence of why change Sulu? Why not just add a new character?
If they would have just added a character, or even taken a more minor character and brought them in and found out that they were gay, I think me and almost everybody else would have been perfectly okay with that. Right. The thing with Star Trek versus Star Wars, I know the tale as old as time right there. When the new Star Wars came out, Disney blatantly said the expanded universe does not exist. Of course, we're finding out they're reneging a little bit with that, with Star Wars Rebels, adding in some characters from the expanded universe.
But at the same time...
But for the most part, they've destroyed... we're probably never going to see Mara Jade. We're probably never going to see a lot of things that happen within the books of the Star Wars universe. Paramount and CBS has not come out and said the things that exist in the Star Trek books, which there are numerous ones, no longer exists. So, in the books... Sulu does marry a female and has a daughter. The daughter is then in a couple of the movies. So it exists that he had a relationship, he had a marriage, he had a daughter. If that still exists, if the expanded universe is still accepted, then he was married to a woman. Now, yes, she did die, but that having your wife die doesn't automatically change your, lifestyle choices.
Right.
So I do kind of agree with George on the fact that that character should not have been changed that dramatically. But that being said, we're no longer in Star Trek Prime, which was what we call the original series there. So we do have changes in characters. The problem I have is that it's very pick and choose who they change and what they change.
What do you mean?
Well, Kirk is still very much Kirk. William Shatner could play the new Kirk and there would be no difference. He's still misogynist for the most part. Right. He will sleep with anything that appears to be female, even if it has cat ears or it's green, referring to Into Darkness and the 2009 remake.
Right.
And he's still the headstrong, manly man captain that the original series was.
Right.
No change.
Right.
And I'm assuming that in Beyond, that's going to carry on with the same thing.
Right.
Then we turn to Bones, who really... Bones is still the same character, different origin story.
How so?
In the original series, he didn't get the name Bones by being divorced and his wife leaving him with nothing but his bare bones.
Oh.
He gets the name Bones by the old term Sawbones, having to do with being a doctor.
Oh, well. Learned something there.
But it's a minor change. He's still that same kind of cocky country boy doctor type character now that he was in the original series. So, but that's a slight change. So I'm just kind of graduating to Sulu here.
Right.
So then we have Spock. Spock is still a Vulcan. He's still half human, half Vulcan. Has emotions. He does let them run a little bit more wild in the remakes, though.
Really?
He has a whole relationship with Uhura.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, don't know.
Yeah, not in the original.
Don't know much about Nimoy Spock.
Right.
Just putting that out there.
But of course, as we found out before Nimoy passed away, he had no problem with Spock changing in character. So that is a more dramatic change, though, than,
But nobody, I don't remember people really talking
nobody
about
really freaked out. Within the Star Trek community, there has been some backlash because of, in Beyond, he really lets his emotions with Uhura take control of some things. But in my opinion, they make it work to make the plot move along.
I was entertained.
Yeah. So there wasn't really anything negative to come from that. And I'm not saying there will be anything negative to come from Sulu. It could be something where it's just a minor thing in passing that doesn't even get noticed had it not been brought to the forefront of our minds before the film was even released. But then you get to Scotty. Nobody has talked about Scotty.
I love Simon Pegg.
Oh, no, I do too. And I think he has done a great job. He is not the Scotty from the original series. I don't care what anybody says. And if you have something to say, write it in the comments. Please prove me wrong. The Scotty from the original series was not comic. He did have some funny parts. He was not comic relief, though. He respected Kirk. And he was a lowly man on the totem pole. He was a red shirt. He was a red shirt that survived, but he was a red shirt and acted as such. For those who don't know, there is the stereotype of red shirts dying in Star Trek, even though there have been some people who have done the math on that and proven that it's not as true as we assume. But the red shirts were also the lowlier people on the crew. Either you didn't have a name, or you were used once or twice, except for someone like Scotty. But he respected Kirk, he respected McCoy, stuff like that. Fast forward to the 2009 remake, where he is kind of thrown in to the Enterprise and the Federation and all that, with his little companion that did not exist before.
Yes.
And he comes in jokes blazing. I mean, he comes in amusing. He's hungry. He wants a sandwich, like right at the beginning there. He comes in all wet. In Beyond, you think that they're getting rid of him for the first half of the movie. And when he's having conversations with Kirk over the comm, it's not that he disrespects Kirk, but he is talking to Kirk as if they are buddies at that point. It's not that same respect that the original character had. And I would not doubt if for Beyond, if he just comes out as acting straight friends with Kirk, if he was to say, use buddy terminology, if he called him a beautiful bastard or something like that, that would not surprise me at all. Mostly because Simon Pegg did co-write this, and I'm sure he wants to put more of himself into this movie. But just because there's been a gradual progression with Scotty, which is why some people haven't noticed it, and a lot of people are not complaining about it. Then you have Uhura, who used to be very much, in the original series, sit behind the desk, answer her little column that the Vulcans are saying they want to surrender. The Romulans are saying they want to surrender. You have a call on line 3, Captain. It was that very secretary, because it was the 60s.
Yeah.
It's like, sure.
So in their minds, we're like, the network's like, okay, we let her be black.
Yeah, we let you have a black female on the ship. Now, in the original pilot, the second in command was also female, but CBS said, yeah, no. We'd rather you have an alien as a second in command than have a female. But we'll let you keep the secretary. But she wasn't very hands-on until the kissing episode. Yes. But even after that...
Then everybody knew.
Then everybody knew who she was. Now, in the movies, of course, she gets a little more into the mix. But not as much as the present-day one. But I can see that one even has a progression. We have her as a secretary in 2009, her as the love interest in Into Darkness, and I think in Beyond we're going to see her as Kick-Ass Uhura. Mm-hmm. And I predict that we're going to see her really in the mix, especially since we have a female alien character who we don't know anything about, and I'm trying to think of her character's name. It's not J-Lo. J-La, yeah. And I really can't wait.
Which Simon Pegg has a great story of how he got the name for that. So you should YouTube him on, I think it was Colbert or Seth Meyers. But anyway.
Yeah, and I really want to see, because I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of dynamic between those two characters. Because I see that as a character that is going to end up being a big part either at the end of this one or at the beginning of the fourth, because I've read rumors that they're already talking about the fourth movie with the same cast we have now, except for one, obviously. But we're not going to get too much into that, because what they're going to do with Chekhov, I have no clue.
I think so far Abrams has been quoted by saying that he will not recast him. Now, what they do with the character... Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, how they take care of the character. Because I have a feeling that...
You didn't mention Chekhov in your analysis of the progression. Is he the same from...
For the most part, yes, because he's always been that... in my opinion, he is the fan that's in the movie.
Okay.
Who just happens to be Russian. But he is the one where, okay, they don't dumb things down for him, because he's a very intelligent character, both in the original and in the remake. But he's exposition. So he's like, all right, this is what has to be done. Let's draw it out a little bit for anybody who's watching who doesn't understand the overused tech, which thankfully the remake has not done. Crossing my fingers that Beyond doesn't do too much garbled tech stuff that makes zero sense if you're familiar with any of the series, especially Next Generation. They like to throw a lot of terminology in there that makes no bloody sense whatsoever, but it sounds good. It sounds good for the show. No, I just want to hear about the lithium crystals. That's all I want. But they use him very well. And for the fourth one, they will need that type of character, but I'm hoping that Abrams keeps his word and they don't make Chekhov Jr.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, we don't need that. We don't need to find out he had a secret son.
Well, from what they've said already, which is very little, is that Chris Hemsworth will be back as Kirk's father. So naturally, the only thing that people are thinking of is time travel.
Right.
And I can easily see certain characters, having to stay behind if there is indeed a time travel.
Which is not unheard of in Star Trek.
In Star Trek. So that could be a way that could address Chekhov.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, though, each person has had kind of a growing progression. Sulu has been Sulu in the 2009 and Into Darkness. He is very Sulu. Now, yeah, he's John Chow's version of Sulu. He's not George Takei's version. And that's perfectly all right. But he is still Sulu. And then all of a sudden, for part 3, they're going to say, oh, yeah, he's Sulu and he's gay with a daughter. So it's like, okay, so you keep the daughter part of the expanded universe, but...
Which I wouldn't be surprised if it was just like a passing thing.
That's what I think. I think it's going to be something that is towards the end.
Or beginning for like 20 seconds. Or towards the beginning,
yeah, and it's either him seeing his husband and daughter and then going off on the mission, or coming back from the mission and seeing his husband and daughter. I think this is something that we're going to find out has been blown out of proportion, and is, like I said, if it wasn't in the forefront of your mind, probably wouldn't even notice. And that's the way something like this should be addressed. It shouldn't be, you walk onto the bridge of the Enterprise and there's these pink balloons and a big rainbow sign that says "Welcome Sulu," and I don't think it's going to be anything like that. But so that addresses the big elephant in the room. So
expectations.
So we'll start with the non-Trekker first.
For me,
for you, what do you want to see from a fun sci-fi movie?
What do I want to see in Star Trek Beyond?
Yes.
More of what I've seen in the last two movies. Just, hey,
Okay.
give me a fun science fiction adventure.
Mm-hmm.
You got a great cast so far by adding Idris Elba as the villain, who I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah.
Keep the humor going. I know I've just now learned that is not Scotty from the beginning. But I love Simon Pegg, so as long as Simon Pegg wrote some good stuff for him.
Yeah, Scotty is one character I love in both versions.
Yeah, but they're different.
They are different, yeah.
So I didn't know that. But just keep it going, keep Chris Pine and Zoe Saldana and Zachary Quinto, keep their dynamic going. Crisp action, good space sequence. That's all I want.
You left Carl Urban out of that.
I did leave Carl Urban. I'm sorry.
He makes an excellent Bones.
I do. And, I do like to, when it's like bad things happened recently, I do think of that part in the trailer. Oh, that's just typical. I do think, I'm sorry, Carl Urban.
Yeah.
Actually, I did see him at Dragon Con, and I didn't even say hey to him.
Oh.
But in my defense, he had a long line.
I bet.
I was like, you know what? I will cut my losses.
Yeah, because he's one of those. You can look him up in old stuff before, but it's like he almost didn't exist before 2009.
Right.
It's like J.J. Abrams formed him in a lab somewhere as Bones.
Yeah, and a nice last performance from Anton Yelchin. So for me as a non-Trekkie, my expectations for this film just up on movie.
Right.
Bring me that.
And from what all the previews have
I
said,
will buy it on Blu-ray,
right?
As I have done with the other ones. We're good.
Yeah.
Now, how about the Trekkie?
Okay, so on the surface,
right,
I'm expecting a fun science fiction action movie.
So on the surface, you have the same expectations as me.
Exactly.
Good.
And from what the previews have seen, we will not be disappointed. Right. And if the other two movies have any say in it, we'll come out going, that was a really good movie. I'm going to turn back around and go see it again now.
But it is directed by a different guy.
Right. It is. The thing that has me nervous, I'm not a Fast and Furious fan.
I am, though.
So
we have a Fast and Furious man, and we have a Trekkie in here.
Right. So this might be combined. This is our perfect movie.
Maybe.
Yeah. Because my fear is that there's going to be too much of that in this.
Well, I'm not trying to defend this movie in a Star Trek manner because of Fast and Furious, but what I say from what I've seen from Justin Lin, the Fast and Furious franchise before he came in was very early 2000s base movie. Very, it was like, hey, it's a car movie.
Right, and yeah.
Him and his team came in and revitalized it to a more not gimmicky. Obviously that franchise has so much gimmicks in it, but
the franchise is a car franchise.
It's almost a gimmick franchise, but they brought more of like fast-paced action in it, so that's why I want some good action because I know Justin Lin can handle it. Right. Now, granted, he did it with cars on Earth. Now this isn't space, an unknown planet, so might be. I don't know if it's out of his element. I like to think not, since they hired him.
Yeah,
but I would say like. As far as the movies when he took over, that's great. I don't know, it's just the fact that by the time he got there, they were in their 4th through 6th month, and they just knew each other.
Right.
But it's good now. He's directing a 3rd Star Trek. He just brought out a good sense of chemistry along the cast.
I have heard that he's good at the family dynamic of characters. So,
but again, I don't know if it's because by the time he came in. You even brought your own character from a whole separate movie into this franchise.
Yeah.
But, they did have that connection. And it works that he's going into Star Trek 3. We've had 2 previous movies with his cast, so
they're definitely a strong knit cast there.
So I would say, I wouldn't worry that much. It's not like, say, Kick-Ass 2, where I had no idea who that director was.
Yeah.
And will not want to know anything.
See our previous episode to find out more about Kick-Ass 2.
I saw who's directing that one, I was like, I don't know who you are. And the one movie you did direct that I heard of, never seen it, and probably will not see it.
Yeah.
But with Justin Lin, I enjoy his work. I'm curious to see how he's going to handle this genre.
Yeah, I definitely don't think he's going to ruin Star Trek. He's not going to ruin my childhood, to use the popular quote. If nothing else, I can always take comfort in the fact that this is movie number 13.
Mm-hmm.
Odd number Star Treks are typically not good. This is the 13 unlucky number Star Trek.
This is the ultimate odd number.
Right. So it's already got bad juju in there. Right. So anything good that comes out of it should be like extra good. I'm curious to see more character growth. I would like to see Kirk change a little bit, not dramatically, but I would like to see...
In what way?
A softer side of Kirk. Maybe...
Is that okay?
I personally think so, because we've seen this version of Kirk for so long now, and if they're going to change everybody else in it, basically...
Might as well.
Yeah,
right?
But let's give him a little change. We don't have to make him gay. Yeah. We don't even have to give him a love interest in the movie, even though I can see him and... new alien girl. Jayla, yeah. Finding each other interesting, for lack of a better word there. And maybe they start it in this movie and explore it more in part 4.
But from the previews, I feel like we see her interact with Kirk and a lot with Scotty.
Yeah.
So maybe,
Well, I mean, it is Scotty's movie, so... Let's take Adam Sandler, for example. It's whoever writes the movie gets the pretty girl in the end. That proves I've been watching Star Trek too long if I'm already calling her the pretty girl. So yeah, your judgment in women really changes when you're a Trekker. You literally do not see color, whether it be black, white, red, blue, yellow, striped, anything like that. But you brought up Idris Elba.
Yeah.
When I saw that he was cast, and that he was cast as a character whose species is briefly mentioned, or hinted at, really, not even mentioned, hinted at in the Enterprise series.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That made my nerd goosebumps come up there. Cause it's
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's like there's things that his species did for the Federation that I'm hoping get brought up in this. Because these new Star Treks, if nothing else, give fan service to people who have watched the original series, the newer series, the old movies. And I guarantee they're going to keep with that, but I think they're going to start digging deeper. It's because everybody knows, I mean, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, everybody knew who they were already. Even if you weren't familiar with the Star Trek series.
You know who Kirk is.
You know who Kirk is, at least.
Spock.
And Spock, yeah. Because everybody loves Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
Even if they've never seen a single episode of Star Trek, you love Leonard Nimoy.
Right.
Even if it's just from The Simpsons.
Yes. Or the Priceline commercials.
Or the Priceline commercials.
Same thing with Shatner.
Yeah, with Shatner, yeah. So, you're familiar with those characters. I'm hoping they bring in more from the depth, and then also keep giving fan service to Next Generation, stuff like that.
Now I got a question. So, as they established, this is not the same universe as the Star Trek you grew up with.
Right. I don't think it has an official name yet. I'd like for them to call it the Kelvin universe, but that's...
It's just an alternate one.
Right.
Do you think they'll ever go, make another Picard?
I think...
And would you want that?
My prediction is that that's what they're going to do with the series.
Okay.
I know very little about the series except that I've seen the new logo for it, and I really dig the new logo because it has kind of a classic yet gritty look to it. It kind of reminds me of the way Deep Space Nine as a series looked.
Right.
But I don't know of anything about personalities for any of the characters or anything like that. I would like to see another Picard because Picard was my captain. Picard was the captain I could relate to.
Right.
In the 60s when Kirk came out, that was during the Cowboys and Indians, rough. If to be a man, you had to be a manly man type guy. When Picard came out, that's when the nerds started rising up. So Picard was a very nerd-friendly captain.
Right.
Deep Space Nine, we have an African-American captain showing progress. And then in Voyager, we have a female captain showing progress. Enterprise, that was a prequel to all the series, so we're back to a white guy being kind of tough. So I'm thinking that we're going to have another nerd rise up. And we're going to see... I don't want to see a hipster captain.
Okay.
Though I would like to see one with a beard.
Okay.
Because we do not, except for when Riker is technically captain, but during Voyager, I'm trying not to make this a 5-hour long episode explaining all this. Riker does make it up to Captain, though, eventually. That's the only time we really see a bearded, well-known Captain.
Right.
I'd like to see another bearded Captain again. But I'd like to see another Picard. I don't want to see a carbon copy of Patrick Stewart,
Right.
though. Because Patrick Stewart played Picard the way Patrick Stewart would play it. And nobody...
So are you saying like Chris Pine plays his Kirk like Shatner?
Right, but without doing a direct carbon copy. It is definitely the same character.
Right. So if they ever do another, whether in TV or in the movie universe, if they bring Picard back, what would you want the new actor to do?
I would want him to play it as a character who embraces both the technological future that they're in, but takes inspiration and takes ideas from the modern world that it's being filmed in. Which is exactly what Picard did. Even though it wasn't supposed to come... I don't think it was supposed to come across as that. It couldn't really help it because they couldn't say, well, this is what it's going to be... This is what it was like in 2016 when they're filming in 94.
Right.
But like Picard takes stuff from the 20th century and uses it as inspiration and as ways to strategize what's going on in the 24th century using technology from that era.
Right.
So he's a man of two worlds, kind of a play on his relationship as a Borg also, but he's a man who can think with a creative side and a technological side right there. And I'd like to see that again because Kirk is very guns blazing sort of thing.
Yes.
Go and shooting, ask questions later.
Yes.
I'd like to see more of a...
That's what makes the movies exciting.
Right. And that's why I think I don't want to see a Picard in the movies. I want to see him in the series.
Okay.
While I did really enjoy the Next Generation films, the 4 of those that exist, they are, for better or worse, and for me it's better, they are 2-hour-long episodes of Star Trek. And I've heard Beyond be compared to that, and they've compared it in a negative way, but really that makes me want to see it all the more.
Right.
But these movies are... The 2009 movie and Beyond and Into Darkness are Star Trek movies. They are films. We need action in films. We need some dialogue, but we need action because that's what keeps us wanting to watch it. We don't have to worry that much about character development within a movie. Within a series, you have to have character development.
Yes.
You have to grow as a character.
Unless you're Gotham.
Oh, we went there. And in the 3 series that the originals lasted, Kirk did not grow that much. I'm not saying that's what killed the series. There was a million other things that killed the series, mostly CBS. But Picard lasted, 7, 8 series? Oh no, I'm going to get crucified here for not knowing the exact numbers. Over 100 episodes of Next Generation because there was growth in the characters.
Right.
And you could have filler episodes where it was just growth part. There wasn't a lot of action that happened. And I'd like to see that with a Picard-type character. Well, but I don't want to see Picard Jr.
Well, if that ever happens.
Yeah, so we will definitely see with the new series. But
as far as Beyond, that's just be good.
Be good, yes. Be good. Contain a Beastie Boys song somewhere because the first 2 have. So we know that Beastie Boys exist within this universe.
Yes. If there was a remnant of the past,
yes,
it's Beastie Boys.
Have comedy in it, but not over. Don't overdo the comedy. I know I'm talking about something as if it hadn't already been filmed, and let's change that based on what the beard has told us. Sorry, guys, we got to take the movie down. We got to refilm it. We have too much comedy.
Stop it. Reimburse everybody that's watching it right now.
Right? Yeah, just stop the film. But not too much comedy, but have the comedy because it is a Simon Pegg movie.
Yes,
it's going to have comedy, but don't be Hot Fuzz. Don't be Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah,
don't be that much comedy. Put the characters in a situation that makes no sense for them to be able to get out of. Because that's very Star Trek right there. Let's put them in the Maru type situation where there is a no-win. There's no way they're going to get out of this unless they come up with something that makes no sense, like using alien spit or something to get out of. I'm trying to think of not just phaser shooting your way out of, put them in like a jailbreak type situation where, they're the good guys. They're going to make it out in the end. So let's put them in a situation where for a brief second you think, somebody's not making it out of this alive.
Okay.
You know, don't let that be how they get rid of Chekhov, though. Oh. Let him go out in a blaze of glory if he has to go out. Don't put him in a no-win situation. But put, the Kirk McCoy Spock characters, put them in a situation where it's like, there's no way they can get out of this. And then Kirk have a cockamamie idea, Spock say that's illogical, Bones say you're an idiot, Jim, and then they get out. Because Kirk's idea works.
Yes.
Have some over-the-top stuff, but over-the-top stuff in a Trek way, okay. Not in, be fun. In the end, be fun.
Good.
And I think that's what we're going to see.
Well, I hope you join us for the next episode, which will be the review of Star Trek Beyond.
We will review it, pimples and warts and all, whether we really enjoyed it or whether we hated it. I don't see us hating it.
The fact that I enjoy the first one,
mm-hmm.
and I knew nothing.
Right.
And I went to the theaters.
Yeah, you were the person drugging, kicking and screaming.
I really don't remember how I saw the first one. I think I was just bored.
Okay.
I really think I was just bored, and maybe Redbox or was on TV or something.
Oh, wow.
But it was, when it came out, I heard people who did see it say it was good, but mm-hmm. I didn't know anything. So, but I also didn't know, I thought it was a continuation in some way or something.
Right.
Which maybe a little is based on, the whole Prime.
It's a requel.
It's a requel.
Requel, yes. To coin that word again.
But I saw it and I was like, wow, this is a much better movie than I thought. I mean, I don't get the possible Easter eggs I'm missing, but that didn't affect me.
And that's what I love about these movies, is the fact that you can know 0% about Star Trek. You can know 0% about Star Trek and go see Into Darkness without even having seen the 2009.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to miss a lot, yes.
But not because you're not Trekkie, just because you didn't see the previous film.
Right, yeah.
But, then I went and saw Into Darkness opening night, and
mm-hmm.
loved it.
Yeah.
So, I highly doubt I will be disappointed this time around.
Yeah, this is the first time around I haven't seen it on opening night, but that's just because before I didn't have a family and a child, to consider.
Really?
Really.
Oh.
Yeah.
That long, huh?
That long, yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that movie's that
Beyond
long.
has taken a while to come out.
Okay.
They were hitting us with 2009 with Into Darkness. They were like, boom, boom, we're going to keep giving you Star Trek movies. And then they were like, oh, wait, we need another director. No, wait, that director's not going to work. No, let's use this director. And J.J. Abrams is doing Star Wars now.
He caved to our opposition.
Yeah. So.
Didn't know it was that long ago. Oh,
yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah, no, I know. This has been a long... That's also what has a lot of people with their hopes like way up. So, but I'm going with my hopes right in the middle.
Right.
Yeah.
My expectation for not just Star Trek movies, just any movie, just be good.
Be good. Yeah. Be good. Watchable.
I'm not. You don't have to be a masterpiece.
Right.
Just be good.
Yeah.
Be good.
Yeah, and if you're an excellent odd number Star Trek movie, then you get to go right up on the mantle. Yes. Right there. You get first place.
And you can, if this one works out, you can thank Simon Pegg.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then again, it helps that you get a Star Trek fan to write it.
Yes.
And who acts in it. So you would think he knows.
Yeah, I think he's seen the original series.
Yeah.
So I think he's seen a lot of the other series. So I think he knows what he's talking about. I think he knows what he's doing. When they first announced him as the writer, there was a little red flag pop up in my head because of Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz and stuff like that.
But at least it says, at least with those movies, it says he knows how to write a movie.
Yes.
So if anything, it's not like they were like, hey, Chris Pine, do you want to...
Oh, yeah. No, if there was a Chris Pine was writing, no offense, but...
I don't know about your writing skills. So at least Simon Pegg has a history of writing films. So he at least knows how film are supposed to be written.
Right, yeah.
In the least.
And he knows how to write action scenes.
Yes, he does.
He does. So, granted, they're not fighting zombies this time. They're fighting aliens, but same fubai, as they say.
Yes, join us next time.
Yes. See you next week.